Hello, everyone. Next, we're going to work on our steps. We have two set of steps, one going from the ground to the lower terrace, and then going from the lower terrace to the upper terrace. Make sure you have your handout readily available because you're going to need it. There's some details here that are going to be important. So as I'm going through here on page 6 is where they begin. Let me go into presentation mode. Now here you see ground to terrace stair plan, terrace to house stair plan. You see stair details there, and you see dimensions here for ground to terrace stair, the riser height. So there's a note here of 7 inches, same as these going from the lower terrace to the upper terrace. Now here, the terminology used is stair, right? But I'm going to be using step. Okay. And let me go ahead and tell you why. Let's discuss a little bit of architecture vocabulary, shall we? So here, even if you look it up, right, Merriam-Webster's website, which is a well-recognized dictionary, for those who used to use dictionaries, you know, the little books to look up words. Many times we just look online now, but anyhow, is there a difference between steps and stairs? So what they're saying, basically they're the same thing, right? They both have risers and treads that you step onto, but when practically speaking, when using them, when they are outside, they're more often called steps. When they're inside or indoors, they're referred to as stairs. I also found this little graphic I wanted to share with you. Stairs, a set of steps between, a set of steps built between 2 floors inside a building, and then steps, a set of steps that are outside of a building. Okay, so I'm hoping that helps, because even though your handout refers to them as stairs, I am going to refer to them as steps. Okay. All right, let me go ahead and move this one over so we can get back into our SketchUp model. Let's create a new layer. The first one will be for the steps that are going from the ground to the lower terrace. So we can either call these lower steps, or they can be lower steps, upper steps, or they can be ground to lower terrace steps, and then lower terrace to upper level steps. Because we don't have that much room here, and I want to take advantage of the real estate for modeling versus layer name, I'm just going to go with lower steps here, and then upper steps. All right. I'm going to begin with the lower steps. So I'm going to make that layer active. And in order for us to do it, we're going to start off, we already have the floor plan here. So we can use that as a guide to trace the steps. So if we go, I'm going to hide what we have here currently. I'm going to hide everything except for the floor plan. And I'm going to hide the lower terrace as well. I don't want to get distracted by everything else at the moment. I want to go into camera, standard views, top, camera, parallel projection. Okay. I'm going to start down here below. The process will be the same for the top. And from here, I'm going to trace. As a reminder, we are tracing an image, so it's not going to be 100% correct. I want to make sure the layer is active. And I'm going to go ahead and just trace. Again, it's not going to be 100% accurate. I'm going to get it as close as I can, as best I can. Now, once you have one, you can either try to trace the others, or they all should be relatively the same when it comes to the actual tread with this distance here. So if I double click, I want to right click to make that its own group, and then hit M to move, Control to move a copy, and I'm just going to move a copy, and then hit Control again and move another copy, and hit Control again, and move another copy. Okay, now I have all 4 of these. They have been grouped, and that's important because otherwise they're going to merge and it's going to be a mess. Okay, now that I have them, I can orbit, hit spacebar. I want to go into my perspective view, zoom in a little bit more. Okay, so we know that the riser height is of, let's see, riser height 7 inches. So from the top of one step to the top of the other step is 7 inches. So I'm just going to start by moving, let's see, I'm going to move this one up, but this one needs to have thickness first. If we look at our handout, let me get to that one. Let me bring it back for all of you to see. Bring it down here. Okay, let me zoom in a little bit. So the riser height's the same for the lower steps, and then the thickness of the steps. So the very bottom one, if it's, I'm not sure if it's going to be hitting the ground just yet. I don't think so. I think we're going to have to elevate it. But let's start with this. So 2 inches is the thickness itself. And then once we have that travertine stone for the step, which is the material being used, we're going to go up 7 inches from there. Okay. So let's do that. I'm going to double click P to push pull, and that's going to come up 2 inches. Okay. All right. Click outside. So from here, if I were to move, I can move all of these up. M to move this one up. Then I know it's going to go up. Make sure I'm on the blue axis, 7 inches from there. All right. And then the thickness we said was 2 inches. So I'm going to hit P to push pull, 2 inches. And then these two, M to move. This one's going to go up on the blue axis, 7 inches. And then, oh, sorry, I want to double click here, P to push pull, come down 2 inches. And then from here, M to move, go up, make sure you're on the blue axis, 7 inches, go underneath, double click, P to push pull, that's 2 inches. Okay, now, I'm not sure how high this one's going to go off the ground just yet. We didn't have that information in the drawings. So what I'd like to do is turn on our lower terrace so we can see where it's hitting it. Okay. Now notice right now the difference. And this is a tripping hazard, right? If you're going 7 inches, 7 inches, 7 inches, 7 inches, and then all of a sudden it's not 7 inches, you want to be careful with that. So let me go ahead and select all of these, hit M. If I were to come up on the blue axis, I can align it to the edge of that lower terrace right there. Just keep in mind, so it's almost aligned perfectly there with the steel, with what we drew earlier. But notice how it's aligned here, but you do have that little bit of material, right? The itty bitty bit of material there. And it's not very high, but let's go ahead and check our reference images to see if it's flush. If the step is flush with the travertine here, then we'll bring up the step there. If the step is aligned to the steel of the terrace, then we'll leave it as is. Okay, so let me go ahead and pull up those images. And let's see here. All right, you all were provided reference images for this project, and I'm going to go ahead and pull up a few here for us to look at together. Now, this is going from the lower terrace to the upper terrace, and I do see a difference here between the travertine on top and the steps. It looks like it's flush with the steel with the upper terrace. Let's see. Let's see. This image, it's so close, but it doesn't give us what we're looking for. Let's see. We can see here, looks like the travertine's aligned with the steel. And yeah, we see it there too. All right, so for the upper terrace, looks like the travertine step, that one's aligned with the steel. But for the lower steps, let me zoom in a little bit. It looks like it's not. So we're going to have to make that difference of 7 inches. So not bring it up. So what we had was lower, but not quite 7 inches. So we're going to bring it down. Okay. Okay. Let's minimize all of this. Okay. What I want to go ahead and do is take a guide. So I'm using my tape measure tool. I want to go down 7 inches. And then I want to select all of these. Hit M to move and go down 7 inches. And I want to bring it out as well. I'm on the green axis right now. I want to bring it out so it hits properly. There we go. Green axis. There we go. Okay. All right. So it looks like our step went a little under. That's not good. Now I know during different times of year, I know in this area there's snow. So I'm wondering if those dimensions were taken when there was snow, which would have changed the height there. We see this image in the fall and the ground's actually a little lower, right? Because we should be able to have 1, 2, 3, 4 steps and a little difference there. And this guy comes down. Okay, let's see. Camera, standard views, front, camera, parallel projection. This is what we have right now. So what we can do with the proper dimensions, let's see. Yeah, because this is based off of the plans that we have. So it may have been that they were measured at different times versus the picture when it was taken. No big deal. What we'll go ahead and do is when our model is complete, we will elevate it so it sits on the ground properly. So we'll bring this up. We won't do it right now because we have multiple things we're working with, but we'll bring it up. Okay. And this is 2 inches. It looks like it's off by about 2 inches. It's not a big deal, but you know, we want to make sure we do things right. Okay. Now that we have that and the distance is correct, right? Our dimensions are correct. We're 7 inches from here and 7 inches from this, the top of the step to the top of the step, from the step to that step, and the top of this one to the other, which will avoid any tripping hazard if they were different. I want us to go ahead and work on the support for these steps along with the stringers. So we're going to go into camera, standard views, and left. So camera, standard view, left. These are already grouped. What I'd like to do next, according to our handout, which we have here, we see that there's a little itty bitty support that goes in 1 inch from right to left, and then it goes down 1/2 inch. Okay. And then there's a line that's centered for vertical support there, and then you have your stringer. So let's go ahead and work on that one together. On the lower steps, make sure that layer is active. And I'm going to start pulling down guides. Okay. I'm going to hide my lower terrace just so it doesn't become distracting. I'll bring it back later. I'm going to bring down guides that are 1/2 inch. And then going from right to left, 1 inch. Just to verify, Yeah, 1 inch there, half an inch here. Okay, down half an inch, over an inch, down half an inch, over an inch, down half an inch, and then across 1 inch. Okay, so we can go ahead and do here on those steps. We can use our rectangle tool, and we can draw a rectangle from there to there. We're going to do the same for all 4. For the horizontal support, oh, sorry, camera, standard views left. For the horizontal support of the steps, same down here. There we go. And then I'm going to go ahead and orbit around, go into 3D. And I want to push pull this. So I'm double clicking on that surface. I can actually make that its own group. Let's do that with all of them. Make group, double click, make group, because we don't want them to merge. We're going to be adding different materials to them. Make group. And then as we orbit around, double click to edit the group, P to push pull. And then I am going to bring it all the way to this end. Make sure you use the inference. You want it to align to the edge. There you go, endpoint. And then click out of that. Repeat the process, double click here, P to push pull. There. Okay, repeat the process, double click, P to push pull. Make sure you get the little dots, the little stippling, come all the way across. Make sure you use an inference. And then hit your space bar, double click outside, double click what you want to edit, P to push pull, come all the way across. All right, double click. Okay, so we have those. We're going to go back into standard views left. Let's zoom in. Now we want to go ahead and find the center point. So these guides I can delete. I don't need those. I'm just selecting, deleting. Now I need to find the center point of these horizontal supports, these right here. So I'm going to draw a line. I'm just going to serve as a guide, no length in particular, nothing special. I'm just drawing a line. So L, look for midpoint in group. L for line, left click, draw a line. Again, no length in particular. L for line, bring it down. And then the thickness, the width of that support is half an inch. It's fairly thin, but it's steel. So now from here, let's use our tape measure tool and go across 0.25. So to the left and to the right, 0.25. Space bar and go to the next. Tape measure tool, go 0.25, and then on the opposite side, 0.25. Okay, same thing here, 0.25 and 0.2. Space bar, go to the next one, tape measure tool, 0.25, enter, and then pull another one to the right. Okay. All right, perfect. So we have those. And then let's take a look at our lower terrace. I'm going to turn that on and see where it hits it. Okay. So we need to make sure when we're creating the stringer, which is what's going to support the steps themselves, that we give ourselves enough space to do so. Okay, so how are we going to do it? I'm going to take my line tool. I'm going to take my line tool. I'm going to start from this guide here. Here, come across. Come to the left end of my step. Here. I want to make sure I come up. Right now it's going to the midpoint of my line, but that's nothing, that's doesn't mean much right now. What I'm trying to find out is where will be the best point for us to put the stringer. And it looks like I'll probably have to go in the opposite direction. But I'm trying to find, so right now if it goes from this edge to this edge, it should be the bottom. Here, here, and then go down further. Okay, let me hit escape here. Let's go in the opposite direction. Let's go from here to this end of the support. We want to go down. So we're making sure that we have that stringer support. Stringer support. And we want to leave a little gap between the edge, the lower left-hand side. And then how far this is going to be from the ground. Okay, so right now it's going at 4, let me see, it's reading 4 feet, but that's not right. Let's see. So here I'm on the line. Here I'm on the line. And this is for the bottom of the support. We need the top of the support, so it needs to go down even further. Okay. Let me go back to our handout. Okay. Yeah, there was no information for the bottom here on our handout. So in that case, I'm going to use the same thickness of the steps themselves, similar to what we see in our image here. Notice just elevated a little bit off the ground, not too much. Okay, let's take our tape measure tool. I'm going to go down here 2 inches. Okay, that's what's going to help me. So I'm going to go ahead and draw from this leftmost intersection. I'm going to align. So if I hover over this lower left-hand corner for a few seconds, come down, it'll align. And then from this point, I'm going to pan over to the line I just drew over here, hit spacebar. And then what I want to go ahead and do is hit my L line tool again. And this is going to be going up. This is going to come across. And then from here, I'm going to go back up to this portion. Now, if I want these to be parallel to one another, if I hover here for a few seconds, notice how I get that magenta color, right? So it goes right, if I hold down shift, right there, and then come across. Green axes, click there. Oh, it doesn't look like it hit it. Now, one of the things you need to be very careful of, and we're going to double check right now, is when you're doing these type of lines, notice all of this turned blue, right? There's a solid, but something happened here. Let me orbit. These lines, they attach themselves to the over here. Okay, no huge deal, but you have to be aware of that. If you notice that things aren't closing up, that's why. Because we're modeling again in 3-dimension, and sometimes it wants to select something in particular, and it's not always the case. So I'm using my axes. There we go, the blues and the greens. Okay, so now it's closed. Now it's closed. So I want to double click here. I have this center line that was from that. I can delete this extra line. I can delete this center line. I can delete this little line here. I can delete this line here. I can even delete the center line because I only need the lines on the side. Let's delete this one here and go underneath, delete that line there. Okay. So from here, I want to double click it. There we go. Double click it, make sure it's the edges and the surface that's selected. Okay, good. I want to right click. I want to make group. Double click it. Now, right now the surface is blue. You can reverse the face so that it's white if you'd like, because the blue is kind of the back of it. And I want to go ahead and orbit, and we need some thickness to it. So I'm going to hit P to push pull, and I'm going to go to enter for 2 inches. And then where it's placed, if we look at the drawing provided as to where it's placed here, notice how we're not given a dimension. We're not given a dimension there to what distance that is. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to minimize here. And we're going to bring that in. I'm going to click here, M to move. And I'm going to bring that 3 inches. Now this one, I want to copy and put to the opposite side. M to move, Control to move a copy. So we're doing that, dragging it along to the other side. I'm holding down Shift to constrain it. I want to align it to this edge. And then I want to move it in 3 inches from the outside. There we go. Okay. Now we just need the vertical supports that's connecting the stringers with the steps themselves. And in order to do that, we're just going to fill this in. So you can use the rectangle tool if you'd like. And like in this case, we can double click it. Oh, see how, since it's moved, we'll just have to move it again. So no big deal. Double click, right click, make group, P to push pull. Make sure you double click it to edit. And we're going to come across. Align it there. On this side, we're going to push pull so it aligns properly. So these guides I can delete. There we go. Double click, P to push pull, align. There it is. Okay. So you have that support now. Okay, let's do the same thing on this end. So if we were to do camera standard views left, and we just kind of trace these lines from here to here, there, let's see, here to here. They're not snapping anymore because I moved them. Let's see. So what I can do is draw this guide. Line tool from here, come across, align it to the edge. Blue axes, hit that edge, do the same thing. L for line. So let's see, I have that one. So now this one. Red axes until I align it. Draw a line on the blue axes. And then add the line on top. L for line. There we go. I can delete these little guides. This one, this one, this one, and this one. Double click, right click, make group. Go ahead and orbit around, double click it, P to push pull, come all the way across. And align it to your stringers. Now here I'm gonna hide that layer of the floor plan I'll do the same thing here. Just going to bring the lines across. So L here on the red axis holding shift, align it to the edge, space bar, same thing, L for line, coming back on the red axis, holding down shift, bringing down my cursor so I can align it there. On the blue axis, add a point there, space bar line for the other point as well. On the blue axis, hold down shift, add a line there, there, and then connect over here. So I can delete this line, I can delete this line, I can delete that guide, I can delete this guide, double click. Now you can go ahead and reverse space if you'd like, but what I do want you to do is make that a group. So you can double click P to push pull, bring it all the way across. Now, if you are working and you notice that part of your model is missing, it's disappearing, it's not you. It's just the cutting plane of the model. There's some limitations, so maybe add that there. So all you need to do is zoom to extents, and then it'll come back. All right, last set for these lower steps here. This one, because it's a rectangle, I'm going to delete that. I can go ahead and use the rectangle tool from here to here. Double click to make that a group. Delete these guides here, delete that guide, orbit around. Double click to edit that group, P to push pull. All the way across, align, and then I'm just going to push this in a little bit. P to push pull. All right, we have this guide here. I'm going to delete that. Okay, let me turn everything on, see where we're at, and go into perspective view. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and turn off that floor plan layer. There we are. So once we're done modeling, we'll just elevate everything up the few inches that we saw there where it goes below the plan. Let's take a look here. Camera, parallel projection, camera, standard views left. Okay. Looks like it's going down quite a bit. Yeah, it's a whole step. Okay. All right. So what this is telling me, I know we just spent all this time making this. What it's telling me is that the scale or that dimension was probably off in the handout here. Let's see. This one for ground to terrace stair, that it should be 7 inches. Looks like that was wrong. Okay. For residential stairs, the range is typically between 4 and 7 inches. So it's at 7 right now, but it's going way too far. Let's see what 4 inches might look like. And this isn't ideal, but again, we were going based off of the handout. Let's take a quick peek. Here, going down 4 inches was here. Let's see. If we go ahead and select all these different groups, and say if we brought that up to 4, and then brought back the floor plan, and if we scale it, let's go camera, standard views left. Let's see if we were to scale it to there. So it's sitting properly. What's our dimension now? It's scaled in both directions. All right. That's why I don't like using side nodes and using center nodes instead. Let's try that one more time. Selecting here, holding down shift to select multiple. As for scale, this center node is the one I want. There you go. I should have just done that. Okay, let's see what the range is now. What's the height? From here to here. Okay, it still falls within it. We're looking at 6 1/16 of an inch. 6 1/16 of an inch. Here to here, 6 1/16 of an inch. But this here's at 4. If we drop that down, this will come down a little bit, and that's okay. Let's see. So if we went down 2 1/4 of an inch, so 2.25. Let's see where that puts us. Let's see. I'm missing these guys here. That got scaled as well. So let me just scale that. There we go. Okay. Should have all the components now. But let's take a look. So this, and we can make this its own group so we don't have to select it every single time. So those are their own groups, but then we can make it one large group. Okay. So if we move this down, M to move, went down there. Okay, our last step is right on the ground. So maybe we don't go that far down. Let's see. We could try something closer to in between. Again, the range is from 4 feet to 7 feet. So 6 feet is average. Let's see if 6 would just be enough. We're at 6 1/4 here, but you keep adding that and it adds up. Let's try. Let's just try. Let's see. M. Okay. Bring that up and scale this. Right now, let's see. Scale the center node. All right, so we have a little bit of elevated from the ground. That's good. And the very last step, there could be variation. 5 1/2. 5 1/2 is what we're looking at. So if we brought this up to 5 1/2. Bring that up, move. There we go. Okay, and it is now sitting. Let's see, it's floating a little bit. Is that right? Let's do camera, standard view left. It's floating just a little bit, just an itty bitty bit that it's floating. All right, let's check now. Where are we? Okay, 5 5/8. 5 5/8. Okay, so if it goes down by 5 5/8, if it goes down by 1/8. That's perfectly fine. If it's going into the ground, that's fine. So we'll do that, 5 5/8. Okay, I think we found the magic number. And again, I apologize. I didn't realize that document was not accurate. We're going to come down 5 space 5/8 of an inch. It's not a whole lot, but enough. M, go down, delete that. So now all the spacing is the same. Okay, now we're good. I apologize. I know this video is a lot longer than expected, but I didn't realize that document was not correct. So it's 5 5/8, the distance from your tread where you step on, from one tread to another. Okay, from one tread to another. 5 5/8, here to here, here to here, here to here. Okay. And the lowest one, that's fine if that one's a little bit off. It might fluctuate again, depending on the time of year, if there's snow or the grass and all that. Okay, so we have that one done. I'm going to go ahead and stop this video and then we'll work on the next one.